Welcome to the Second Cup of Coffee. Yes, we have the same shirts on, but it's a different week. It's week 2 of our series. I don't even think I told you last week what our series was all about, but it's really just conversations about coming out of isolation, coming out of, you all went through COVID 2020. We're halfway through 2021, almost all the way through. This will be in July, so we're over halfway. Yeah. And we're facing new obstacles. Exactly. Shortages. Little things like you can't go to the gas station and get a Coke anymore hardly because there's no cups. It you were talking about lumber.
Yep, lumber, metal. It's everywhere.
Right, and you're in construction, and that makes things difficult, I'm sure, because you're trying to get things done and things aren't available or they're sky high. Right. So we recognize that we're facing things. So this is why we're having the conversation. And last week we talked about isolation and seeking our own desire and raging against a wise judgment. And this week we want to talk about, I want to ask you about this. How do you go about having a conversation when you know there's potential for conflict? Right? I'll give you a dumb example. Yeah. Just a dumb example. One of my best friends in the whole world, God bless him, he's he used to be the Washington Redskins, the Washington football team now, or whatever they're called. He's a fan of them. Diehard, like bathroom decorated, the whole thing. I'm a Cowboys fan. Right?
Rivalry.
Right. Yeah. So one night they're playing, the Cowboys are winning. The Cowboys get beat on 2 bombs at the end of the game, lose by like 1 point. It's called the Santana Moss game if you want to look up. It's heartbreaking. He calls my cell phone. I look at it, and Ileana looks at it. What's up, Brandon? I know you watch these. And she goes, it's Brandon. Are you going to answer? And I said, no. And she goes, that's really rude. Why would you not answer? So then he calls my house phone, and this is when you still had answering machines. I don't pick up, but you remember you could hear the answering machine. For you younger kids, it was, never mind. On my answering machine, he's probably singing Hail to the Redskins, just going off. And I looked at Ileana and I said, now you see why I didn't pick up the phone? And we're good friends. So there's going to be conflict sometimes.
Right.
How do you engage that? Because you want to get to what's redemptive in the relationship aspect of it. So
right. I think the first thing, when you're in different places, not at odds, I don't want to say at odds with each other, but in different places of thinking or conversation or whatever it is, I think it's always the place of trying to remember, to listen. There's been times, and honestly, there's been times where I've sat there and I have my opinion pretty well set on what I think. And I'll be talking to somebody and then the hair on the back of my neck's kind of standing up a little bit, because you're kind of feeling a little bit uncomfortable. And they'll pop something off that'll just kind of hit you right in the heart. Just like, I never really thought about that. Right. I just never thought about that. Yeah. So you have to have an openness when you're talking to somebody. Yeah, there might be that struggle, but the struggle is fleshly. It's not a spiritual struggle, it's a fleshly struggle. It's, and a lot of times when you're coming where we're coming out of, it's all about us still. So it's, it's my opinion and I'm right and you're not anywhere near close to me, but we have to listen. We have to be those people that want to listen so that there can be healing in both sides. Whether it's me that has to heal because I felt that I was right and I wasn't, or whether it's you that has to be healed because of where you were at. It doesn't matter. It's about having that listening ear. I think that's a lot of what Jesus did. He listened. He listened to people and what their problems were and what they needed and what their sicknesses were, and he dealt with it in that way.
So he has an interaction with the woman at the well. I know you're familiar with that, right? And I want to kind of throw, because there's things that you know better than I do, right? You've helped me with my air conditioner a few times. I've had to, don't even get me started, but he's come over in the middle of the night and be like, yeah, this is what this is. And it wasn't that he was able to do the final solution, but he gave me the next steps and said, this is what you need to do. But there are times where, like, a boss of mine taught me this, Jay, is you have to be willing to push back. Because even Jesus with the woman at the well, he kind of pushed back on her a little bit and said, look, you've been married 5 times and the guy you're married with now isn't even your husband. He did it lovingly, right? He did it kind. Right. But you and I could be having a conversation and I could be saying something wrong. And I think there's a part too where even as you're listening, you're like, hold on a second. And be willing to gently push back and say, hold on a second. I know that's how you see it, but this is how things
Right.
are.
Right.
I want to ask you because how do you do that gently and effectively? Because ultimately we want to get to what we don't want to just come away going, hey, we like each other. I mean, as much as that's necessary, but we want to get to the truth or the next steps, right?
Right.
So how do you do that where it's effective, not just because I can put my feet in. I mean, I can bunker down and be like, you know,
rigid.
Right, exactly, right. And I don't want to, I guess it really depends. Let me answer my own question. It really depends on the heart of the person. You can't really determine that. But how do you do it on your side to try to make it effective? You can't really determine how they're going to react.
You have to take yourself out of the equation. Take your feelings out of the equation. You know, some of it comes with your knowledge of Christ. Some of it comes with where you stand biblically and how, you know, how much you've been in the Word. How much do you know about who Christ is and what He has done for you? You know, I always look at it as, you know, I know me pretty well. Christ knows me better.
That's good.
But even in all that I've done, right, He still gave His Son for me. So how can this little petty thing really that's going on, how can I bring an accusation to them or a correction to them that is rough and harsh when I really should bring something that's soft? Well, hey, hang on a minute, you know, it's really like you said, it's really like this, you know, this is how it is,
right?
And there might be that that communication that kind of goes back and forth a little bit,
right?
But you may not ever get through to that person because they might not have the ears to hear. But you have to do it in love. You have to do it in care. If you put your emotions, you put yourself in the middle of it, it's going to become a confrontation.
I think because we're friends, so there's a depth of relationship. If you guys have watched these with him on the past, you know that we've known each other not forever, but a long time. So there's a level of trust. So why I'm bringing that up is this: Jay doesn't have to candy coat things with me, maybe like he did, and I don't mean that. He doesn't have to soften things like he did when we were first getting to know each other, because I know his heart. And it's an issue of trust and relationship.
Right.
And even if there's a miscommunication, like say he says something, you know, look, if I'm about to go over a cliff, I don't want him going, hey, you know, I don't want him to Willy Wonka at me. No, stop, wait. You know, look, I don't want to be the fat kid in the tube that's, you know, getting shot out because he drank the chocolate, right? I don't know if I can say that. I'm sorry. But anyway, I want somebody that I love and trust who's saying, you need to stop.
Right.
But I think part of it for I'm not really asking a question, I know he agrees with me, you have to be willing to build the relationship and walk out the relationships. And the only way you can do that is oftentimes getting through the beginning stages of getting to know each other and walking through conflicts, right, so that you can establish a relationship that's strong enough where you don't have to walk on eggshells.
Right. Because you can go through the Word and have conflict with the Word.
Right.
Right. And you can read stuff, and I've heard people do it. Well, I like this section, but I don't like that section. Well, the Word is the Word of God. I mean, there is no conflict in any of it. Yep. It's the truth.
Yeah.
And it's what sets you free. But so if you can have conflict with the Word, there's no doubt that there'll be conversation that'll have conflict. But as you read, as you get to know, as your relationship builds with Christ through the Word, there's more trust in when you read stuff. And He sits there and He says, do this. And you go, yeah, I need to do that. Yeah. And that's what you're talking about. So
we kind of went around it. I didn't give you the verse, but it's in Proverbs 4. It says, get wisdom, get understanding. The only way you get it is if you sit down and you have the conversation. If you don't know or you don't understand something somebody said to you, or don't understand where they're at, you got to go and talk to them, right, and say, and what are you after? You're after the wisdom and the understanding that's going to move the relationship forward. And Jay was so right. You have to take yourself out of the equation. And he talked about alignment. We haven't talked about it today, but I will just briefly mention it. You have to go in the Spirit as much as you can. Your flesh is going to want it, and it may. And you may have to stop and apologize, say, I shouldn't have said it that way or whatever. That's reality. But try to go in the Spirit, because what you're looking for is redemptive. So that's week number 2. So glad that you guys could join us. We hope that we're helping you as you transition out of isolation into your freedom, but doing it in an effective way. And I know Jay said it on week 1, and I think it's the heartbeat of God to reestablish relationship. So God bless you, and we'll see you next week.